And welcome back to Buffalo. We're just about set to tip off in our first semifinal, Iona and Niagara. And let's take a look at today's starting lineups, brought to you by I Love New York. Come out and play in New York State.
See, once again, Jenkins will come off the bench. Waxman had a terrific game last time out, getting things done in the paint with a double-double, 17 points and 10 rebounds.
And tonight's coaching matchup brought to you by Anaconda Sports and The Rock. As we talked about, the top-seeded Niagara Purple Eagles wondering whether they'll be better rested or a little bit rusty. They haven't played in 8 days. Joe Mihalik will find out. He'll match wits with Jeff Rulin, the head coach for the Iona Gales.
Joe Mihalik, the coach of the year this year in the MAAC. The second time he's been honored with that award. Won the award back in 1999 in his first season when he led the Purple Eagles to a #1 seed that year.
The Rock, the official basketball of the MAAC, and you see that Iona has a slight edge in the series history, but the recent history in tournament play has been all Niagara. The Purple Eagles have eliminated the Gales from each of the last 3 MAAC tournaments. And we are underway here in Western New York.
Including a wild one last year, a 106-92 overtime win, where they came back from down 11 late in the second half to pull it out.
The Purple Eagles in their home white uniforms as the #1 seed. They are from just about 25 miles up the Niagara River, so they should enjoy somewhat of a home court advantage here against Iona, which is from New Rochelle, which is a suburb just outside of New York City. And when you talk about pace and tempo in this game, Rob, we can expect a track meet if Niagara has its way.
Absolutely. Iona wants to try and make sure that they run offense throughout the shot clock. They want to try and force Niagara to guard as long as possible on each possession.
A traveling violation against Kirill Waxman, who's coming off a terrific game in round 2. A double-double last night, 17 points, 10 rebounds against St. Peter's. They will need that type of production again from one of their complementary interior players if Greg Jenkins can't be full speed tonight.
Yeah, they got it from Henson in the first round win over Siena. And as you said, Waxman stepping up last night.
The lob inside to Mendez. Off the mark on his first attempt.
Well, he did everything except score. Great catch in traffic.
Soliver on the pull-up. There's Waxman, who per minute is just about as productive a rebounder as anybody in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference when he brings that type of energy.
Talking to Jeff Rulin today, he said the key for us is to make sure that we force them to guard throughout possessions. Certainly Niagara's a team that doesn't really like to play defense. Last in the league in both field goal percentage defense and scoring defense.
Steve Berg misfires on his first attempt. He is Iona's leading scorer at 19 per game. Waxman and Henson battle for the ball. And the Gales with it, still scoreless, a minute and a half in.
And so far, the answer to your question, rested or rusty, they've been rusty, missing a couple easy shots inside.
Niagara will put points on the board, the 5th leading scoring team in the country, but it's Iona which scores first. Waxman with a layup.
And a terrific feed from Henson. Henson's quick enough to put the ball on the floor and get by other post guys.
Soliver off the turnover, trying to run the break. Nice look to Marvin McCullough, and a bad shot. Henson trying to clean it up. Duffy the rebound for the Purple Eagles. Here comes Alvin Cruz, the all-league point guard, off to David Brooks, his fellow senior, who's off the mark on his first attempt. Waxman will go to the line to shoot 2.
So far, Niagara's got the pace that they want. They just haven't finished at the other end. They've got a couple good looks inside and missed wide-open 3 from Brooks. Iona, as we said, would like to get out and run given the opportunity. Then when they don't have anything on the break, settle it down and take some time to force the Purple Eagles to guard.
So Kirill Waxman, a 6'7" junior from New York City. At the line, you see his numbers at the end of the regular season, but actually his season average jumped quite a bit, up over 5 per game because of his terrific performance in round number 2. Hit his free throws last night, up to 71% on the year. He has really stepped up in the absence of Jenkins.
Well, he took advantage of some extra playing time, got some more minutes and made the most of it.
And Waxman has all 4 points in the ball game.
The Gales up in a little 2-2-1 three-quarter court pressure. not just to force turnovers, but force Niagara to take some time off the clock before they get into their half-court sets.
Well, Iona is responsible for the lone upset so far here this weekend. A slight upset in round 2 yesterday. They are the underdog here today in the semifinals. Niagara stays cold. There's Mendez breaking the seal for the #1 seeds.
And Niagara does a great job on the offensive glass. As we've said, Mendez, the only player in the country in the top 10 in scoring and rebounds, gets 2 points and a rebound on that possession.
Here is Steve Burt coming off one of the all-time performances in MAAC tournament history. He's fouled and will go to the line for 2.
Well, Burt's got that great first step. Both he and Soliver can blow by people out on the perimeter. We said Niagara does a great job of finding extra opportunities off the offensive glass. Mendez right there to clean it up.
And actually, Waxman and Henson were the 2 hustling for the ball, and Mendez just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
The ball bounced off both Iona players. But that's the type of energy that Jeff Ruhlin is looking for from his front court guys. He's got it early on from both Henson and Waxman.
Steve Burt well on his way to a berth in the All-MAAC tournament team. You see the 36 points he scored last night. He also had 19, most of them in the second half of the opener against Siena. So the last 3 halves of basketball, he's been as good as anybody in the league.
Absolutely. And coming down the stretch, he was as good as anybody, averaging over 26 a game over the last 4 regular season games. He's been on a roll.
And that season average up to 19 per. Starting to score more like his father, the all-time leading scorer in Iona history. And here comes Steve Burt Jr. with his running mate Ricky Soliver, but Mendez took it back. Alvin Cruz fouled on his way to the basket. They will say the personal came before the shot. And this pro-Purple Eagles crowd doesn't like the call, but it's the proper call. So a non-shooting foul.
Well, Cruz is never in cruise control out on a break. The speed and quickness of Alvin Cruz to force the pace. When the ball's in his hands, he's thinking about one thing. Let's get it going.
The senior point guard from Puerto Rico, a 4-year starter at Niagara University. And again, Mendez misses on a layup.
And in each of their 2 games, Iona has frustrated Mendez inside. Put up great numbers all season long, but has struggled in both games against the Gales.
Waxman and Henson. Here's Burt with an open look from 21 feet, and he buries it.
The all-time leader in Iona College history from beyond the arc. You got to get out, challenge, and close out quickly to Burt.
Steve Burt was a 3rd-team All-MAAC pick in the preseason, made 2nd team in the postseason, so he outdid what the coaches around the league thought he would do this year. We're just over 4 minutes in, 9-2 Iona. Mendez spotting up. Waxman again up above the rest. Now he's left on the hardwood while play continues. Burt puts it in. The Gales have an 11-2 lead, and now play is stopped as Waxman will wander his way back to the Iona bench.
And he went down hard. Great job of coming out and hedging on the high screen and then getting himself involved on the defensive boards.
Looks like a little more rusty than rested for the #1 seed so far. The Iona Gales trying to reach the MAAC championship game, and they're off to a quick start here in these semifinals thanks to Steve Burt. Coming off his 36-point performance last night in round number 2, he has picked up where he left off.
And he's been efficient. He's got 7 points already, 2 for 3 from the floor, stretching you out, knocking down threes, and in his quickness to get by people and finish at the rim.
And Rob, we already mentioned the fact that his dad of the same name, Steve Burt Sr., was a prolific scorer, the all-time leading scorer in Gales history. And for more on that, we introduce the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Dave McGarity.
Thanks a lot, Doug. It was deja vu for me last night. In 1984, as an assistant coach at Iona in a MAAC championship game, Stevie Sr. dropped in 33 against Fordham University. And watching his son last night score 36 points in that game, breaking his record, really gave me a little bit of a shiver because so much reminds me of his dad. We'll see how he does the rest of this game. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Dave, and certainly off to a quick start. And I can also wonder how many points Steve Burt Sr. would have had with a 3-point line. We talk about Junior being the all-time record holder in threes. Daddy would have had a lot more.
Absolutely, because he was a threat not only going to the goal and finishing, a little bigger than Steve Burt Jr., but he was a guy that could raise up from 25.
Lorenzo Miles giving a lift to the Niagara offense. 11-4 now.
Another quick start for Iona. Not as quick as yesterday when they get off to the 17-0 run to start the game against St. Peter's. But all 3 games they have come out and gone right at it. They've stretched leads right out of the game.
And coming right off the bench is Greg Jenkins, number 44, and he immediately goes right to the rim, draws the foul, and he will shoot 2. So again, contact last night. He seemed to be, for the most part, okay. And then the first big blow that he took here today, he looks all right.
Yeah, talking to Jeff Rule, and they said, how's his back? He said, I think he's pretty good, because he came up and said, Coach, I got to get some more minutes. And certainly they need his presence inside both ends of the floor, because if you can throw it into Jenkins and put pressure on Mendez on the defensive end and force him to guard you in the low post, that's a key.
Well, he was productive, Jenkins was last night in his 13 minutes, 8.5 rebounds, and within a matter of seconds of coming into this game, he's drawn a foul and scored 2 points. The Iona pressure here in the first half, giving Niagara some trouble. The defense we talked about last night was the trigger against St. Peter's to that 17-0 run to start things. And again, the Iona defense making Niagara work harder than it wants to. Mathis. Mendez. Will the player of the year assert himself here this afternoon? Right there, he gets his first points.
Well, he's asserted himself on the offensive glass. He's got 2 putback baskets. If you're not going to get anything out of the half-court offense, go get it on the offensive glass. Niagara, not only the best team in the MAAC in rebounding margin, but top 10 in the country. They get after it on the board.
And they take care of business at the line as well, Rob. 12th in the nation at 76% as a team. Niagara shared the regular season championship with Rider University. The Bronx coming up in the second of our 2 semifinals here this afternoon in Buffalo. Rider will take on Fairfield.
Niagara out of the 3-quarter court pressure, back into the zone. They'll try and mix things up, get Iona off balance with their defense.
Shot clock at 10. Soliver. They leave Henson alone. Tries to tomahawk, but he is met at the rim.
What a great block by Mendez.
Who says Mendez doesn't play any defense?
That possession he did.
13-7, Niagara down 6, trying to creep back in it. Mathis left alone. Henson came out to challenge and picks up the 3-shot foul.
Well, Henson trying to be aggressive at both ends, but comes up empty. Thinks he's got himself an easy dunk, but here comes Mendez to meet the challenge. What a terrific block above the rim. I mean, he goes up, times it perfect, all ball, no contact with the body. As you said, who says he doesn't play D?
James Mathis, a junior who is a captain along with the 3 seniors, Cruz, Mendez, and Brooks. He's from Newark, New Jersey, played at St. Benedict's High.
One of 3 recipients of the MAAC 6th Player of the Year award. Had 2 good games. You and I want to rename it the 6th, 7th, and 8th Man Award.
Still trying to figure out the math on that one.
Had 2 good games against Iona in the regular season. Double figures both games.
Kira Waxman okay. Back into the game, replacing Henson. Remember, Waxman was taken out of the game 4 minutes in after falling hard to the floor in a rebound. 13-9, Niagara has pulled back within 4. McCullough, Soliver, and Burt, the trio of left-handed guards for the Gales who played so well this weekend. Soliver misfires, and the Purple Eagles with a rebound.
And another quick shot leads to quick possession up the other end.
Brooks loves to work the baseline. He runs into a brick wall in Jenkins. There's no call. It'll be Niagara basketball.
And Brooks is one of those guys who's got a scorer's mentality. Last game of the regular season had 31 against Rider. Going in, looking for contact, doesn't get it. He's got the strength and body to go find contact. Doesn't get rewarded with the whistle.
Steve Burt trying to run the break again. And he is being hounded by Lorenzo Miles. Waxman from the foul line. Around the rim and out. Like the energy of Lorenzo Miles so far. Don't get too much time to talk about Lorenzo Miles with the star power on this Purple Eagles team, but he has provided a spark here this afternoon.
Well, absolutely. He's their best on-the-ball defender. Doing a good job of forcing the ball out of the trap. And again, Iona with quick shots at the offensive end allows Niagara to get out in transition to get quick shots at the other end. Right now, the pace has been Niagara's way, even though they haven't been able to score it and finish off once they've been on the break.
Rob, that foul was on Marvin McCullough, his second, so he goes out. Greg Jenkins also out. Justin Marshall and Gary Springer have come into the ball game. Pass to Soliver, trying to make like Jerry Rice, couldn't make the catch. And it goes back to the Purple Eagles. I guess around here I should say Eric Moulds. We're in Buffalo, so I should say Eric Moulds trying to make the catch. Went to the back of the end zone, but couldn't haul it in.
Quick pace, but certainly it has not been very pretty. Both teams kicking the basketball around. Neither team doing a very good job executing on the offensive side.
Brooks is screaming for the ball in the corner. Instead, it's Mendez trying to create, and he continues to be cold. Waxman kicks to the corner. Marshall hits the three.
Right there, Iona doing a better job of settling down once there was nothing on the break, taking it back out, resetting, and by doing that, little extra ball movement, you get the wide open look in a corner for Marshall.
Meanwhile, at this end of the floor, Mendez only 2 out of 8 from the floor here in the first 8 minutes of this first MAAC semifinal. The MAAC Player of the Year posting hard again. Instead, the shot by Brooks is off the mark. It'll be Purple Eagles possession. Timeout on the floor. Iona has jumped out quickly again this afternoon. The Marshall plan is Gales by 7 on the MAAC Television Network.
I know most of you just graduated high school last year, or maybe you've been working for a while, seen some things, done some things, but nothing has prepared you for what's going to happen now. We're going to set goals for each of you. Way up here, here, way up here. And then we're going to help you exceed them. Believe it. And when finished, you're going to have not just a degree, you'll be a different person. A better person. Welcome to Iona.
Aspire, achieve. Iona. Call Iona College at 1-800-231-IONA.
It has been a terrific weekend of basketball here in Buffalo. We've made it to the semifinals, and part of the MAAC tournament experience is the naming of all of the all-star teams. We told you already that Juan Mendez was named the Player of the Year. This is the first team: Peter Mulligan, Mendez, Greg Jenkins, Dengai, who we'll see later against Jerry Johnson later. Fairfield and Ryder will match up in the second semifinal. Then the second team, Steve Burt, we're getting a chance to see him at his best. And we'll take a look at the third team All-Stars in just a moment as play is set to continue here. Iona with the lead 16-9 with 11:55 left to go in the first half.
And you saw both Cruz and Brooks on that list as well. So the 3 seniors, all 3 of them making first or second team All-MAAC.
Barry DeRozier has come into the game for Niagara in the backcourt. So Brooks is out. And Joe Mihalik shuffling the lineup just a bit.
Certainly Niagara does not have a very deep bench, especially with the injury to Sharon Fisher, who's having a fine freshman year.
And really, this is about as far as Joe Mihalik is comfortable going on the bench. There's DeRozier left alone, and maybe he'll be the spark.
Well, if you double Cruz, he's going to find open people. Leads the league at over 6.5 assists per game. He'll find you.
DeRozier with his first 2. Makes it a 5-point ball game. Burt, Marshall, Springer, Soliver, and Waxman on the floor for the Gales in their gold and maroon uniforms.
There's the defensive pressure of Miles coming off the screen. And because he's guarding so hard, he forces Waxman to pick up an illegal screen.
And Rob, here's the third team All-MAAC squad. C.J. Anderson, the terrific freshman for Manhattan College, was also the MAAC Rookie of the Year. Greg Jenkins back into the game, and Gary Springer walks slowly back to the bench. You don't see the Purple Eagles shooting under 25% too often this far into the ball game. Mendez with his second steal, hustling back on D. It turns a break the other way for Niagara.
Well, certainly Niagara's opportunistic. Force a turnover. They're going to get out and run. That time they're able to finish in transition.
That'll help that shooting percentage go up.
Yeah, a little bit. One of the strange things in each of the games against Iona, Iona's had at least one half of basketball where they held Niagara to just 7 field goals. So they've done a very good job of getting back in transition D. But here the last couple possessions, not so.
Alvin Cruz, the senior from Puerto Rico, who has put together a fabulous 4-year run at Niagara University, has pulled the Purple Eagles within a point. Timeout called by Iona.
Well, they're able to get out and run because they've turned them over on the defensive end. And then Cruz with the ball in his hands, getting by people, initiating offense. Early on, Iona's done a good job in transition defense, but it's so much more difficult to get back and stop them once you turn the ball over. Missed shot, a lot easier to get back.
Alvin Cruz, the all-time assist leader in Niagara history, but he's able to call his own number when necessary, averaging 14 points per game to go along with the 6.5 assists, which is #1 in the league and 17th best in the country. Well, this season, Balance Bar Food Company and the MAAC are promoting healthy lifestyles to students, alumni, and fans. And today's tip is, always seem to be watching TV. Well, we hope you are this afternoon. Do some stretching or easy exercises as you watch your favorite shows. As you watch the MAAC tournament. As a matter of fact, Rob's stretching out as we speak. The Balance Bar family of nutritional products aims to aid in the passionate pursuit of everyday endeavors and activities by providing energy that lasts.
And that beats Duck, Duck, Goose every day of the week.
Foul against Niagara along the sideline. And Joe Mihalik having a conversation with referee Mike Kitts. Just past the midpoint of the first half in this first MAAC semifinal at the HSBC Arena. Along with Rod Kennedy, this is Doug Sherman. And Dave McGarity with you as well. Glad you could join us as Jenkins posts Mendez. The terrific spin move, but then he lost his balance and went to the floor.
A good execution by Iona. They put the basketball where they wanted. Isolated one-on-one in the low post with Jenkins going up against Mendez. Mendez doing a good job of just holding his ground.
Niagara now with a chance to take the lead. Mathis tracks it down. Brooks back into the ball game. Cruz always looking for a teammate. It's Brooks around the rim and out. Mendez cleans it up, throws it down, and gives Niagara the lead.
And Iona hasn't cleaned things up on the defensive backboards. 2 different offensive rebounds on that possession alone.
17-16. Well, perhaps that rust has been eradicated, and Niagara's starting to pick things up.
Juan Mendez with solid post defense against Jenkins. He ducks in, good post feed. He just holds his ground. Hands up right there, using his legs down low to body him up. Then on the offensive end, going after it on the glass. He's got 3 offensive putbacks already here in the first 11 minutes of play.
And 7 points on those 3 putbacks and a free throw for the man who averages nearly 24 points per game. 2nd best in the league. 3rd most prolific scorer in the country.
And all 3 of his baskets have been on offensive rebounds. You're struggling in your initial half-court sets. Go get yourself extra opportunities off the glass.
Waxman from the top of the key.
Same play with Jenkins on the duck in after the screen. This time he steps around Juan Mendez.
First field goal for Jenkins. He's got 4. Iona back on top, 18-17. Good to see Jenkins better able to go to his right than last time when he tried to go to his left. Brooks, Mathis, and Mendez on the perimeter. Mendez can't get the roll. Waxman was fighting for it. The fight continues after the whistle between Burt and Mathis. That effort gets high fives from head coach Jeff Rulin, who has really been pleased here this weekend by the effort of his ball club.
Mendez has stepped it out from beyond the three-point line a lot here in the first half. 3 of his field goal attempts have been from beyond the arc. And certainly that's a part of his game that he's worked on and has improved. He's taken over 100 three-point shots on the season, shooting it at 31%.
Here is Jenkins on the leak out. Mendez gives chase, gives up the foul, and Jenkins goes back to clutching his lower back as he'll head to the line for 2.
Off the baseline, out of bounds. Jenkins looked good, streaking up the floor like a wide receiver. Howard Carmichael, I guess, huh? With that size out on the break, huh? Able to track it down, but then on the contact, as you said, Doug, grabbing his back after he ran into the stanchion.
Young man who graduated from Iona College last May, working on his postgraduate degree right now. And I would imagine everybody from both sides on that leak out holding their breath. If you're Iona, wondering how Jenkins is going to survive the sprint and the contact, and certainly anytime Mendez is out on the fly, a Niagara fan is thinking, we don't want to lose this guy. He picks up his first foul, and he goes flying into the seats, and Jenkins goes immediately for his lumbar region.
After he landed, he turned his back and then ran into the stanchion. And as we said, looked good, making the trip up the floor.
And so Jenkins will take a seat, replaced by Henson. We take another look.
Great feed by Marshall, right on target. Hit him right on stride. Hard foul to force him to earn him from the line, and there's where he hit the basket stanchion. Obviously in pain.
Cruz guarded by Soliver. Duffy's back into the ball game, replacing Mathis, who sits down with, or sat down rather, with 2 fouls. Now Mathis is back in with Mendez out. Brooks is on the board.
And with Mendez out, they become much more of a perimeter-oriented team. Quick first step by Brooks to get himself to the rim.
Again, that foul on Mendez, just his first, but Joe Mihalik takes him out nonetheless. 7:35 left to go first half. And the Purple Eagles, after a slow start, have come to life after falling behind 11-2. Waxman misses the layup. Brooks clears the glass.
A great move to find himself an easy bucket. Doesn't convert.
Waxman coming off the double-double last night against St. Peter's. He has been equally as active here in the early going for Iona. Brooks again for the lead.
And Brooks is one of those guys that can get on a roll. Saw him with the quick first step, blowing by people to the rim. This time raises up from deep.
Now Brooks was my pick to be that final member of the first team All-MAAC squad. He wound up on the second team, but he has been a terrific influence and producer this year. Another turnover forced by Niagara.
I tell you what, they've done a much better job here this afternoon defending, forcing turnovers, allowing them to get out on the break.
After falling behind 11-2, the seniors are leading the Purple Eagles. 22-19 Niagara on top. Niagara with a 22-19 lead in our first MAAC semifinal. And here's the Broadway Marketing mind-bending trivia question. What school won the first men's MAAC basketball tournament? Back in 1982 is...
You think he knows?
I don't think he knows much of anything. Big number 69's been working it this weekend. Broadway Marketing mind-bending branded solutions. We'll have the answer for you in just a couple of minutes. Now Iona jumped to the 11-2 lead. Since that time, it's been a 20-8 run, if my math serves me well.
Yep, and since then, they haven't found shots for Stevie Burt. He had 7 quick points, hasn't found a shot yet, hasn't taken a shot in the last 8 minutes. Good block initially, but once again, even though it's not an offense or rebound, Niagara quicker to loose balls off the backboards than Iona has been here in the first half.
Foul number 2 on Henson in the 6th against Iona. Niagara's been called for 7 so far here in the half. And David Brooks, the senior from Abington High School, Philadelphia native, makes the first as Waxman replaces Henson with those 2 fouls. Miles, Brooks, Cruz, Mendez, and Duffy on the floor for Niagara.
One of the reasons why Stevie Burt hasn't been able to find himself shots. Soliver went to the bench for a while with those 2 fouls, and he's the guy who has consistently found Burt open shots throughout this weekend.
One official, Mike Kitts, came in and helped out the other, Joe DeMeo, to get the call properly. And the Niagara fans here in Western New York didn't like it. Iona basketball. Marvin McCullough's come back into the game for the Gales. Soliver went to his right hand. Mendez again playing good defense.
Yeah, he came over and challenged despite the 1 foul.
Cruz forced into the runner. He was looking to give it up, and Waxman with the rebound.
Yeah, he was looking for an alley-oop on the backside to Duffy. It wasn't there.
Well, Waxman played him for the pass.
Yep, absolutely. Backed off and got himself in a passing lane.
There's Steve Burt creating for himself. He's up to 9.
And that's why they've got to find shot attempts. His first attempt in over 8 minutes gets it to go.
And that pulls Iona back within 2, trying to pull the upset of the #1 seed Niagara Purple Eagles. Lazy pass, Duffy fortunate to get it back.
And Soliver fortunate not to pick up his 3rd foul. They need him on the floor. He's got to be careful.
Brooks gives it off to Mendez. And again, in close, the player of the year getting it done.
Absolutely, and a big play because that's the 3rd foul on Soliver who gets involved. Excuse me, that's his 2nd foul inside. Mendez going strong, not much contact, able to fight right through it.
Ricky Soliver off to a slow start this afternoon after really having a terrific game last night. 20 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds as they knocked off the St. Peter's Peacocks. Jenkins. Mendez picks up his 2nd foul on what looked like a clean block up top.
But a lot of contact down low.
So foul number 2 against Mendez, and Joe Mihalik's got himself a decision to make.
And that's the importance of Jenkins. Certainly a solid low post scorer. The isolation one-on-one, no double team coming to force it out. Mendez goes up to challenge. As you said, looked like all ball up top. Got him with the body contact down low.
So Mendez stays in for now, as Jenkins now has 6 points. And you're right, that is a huge boost for Iona to have Jenkins to be able to get Mendez in foul trouble.
And now with his 2nd foul, you keep going at him because what's going to happen is Mendez then stops guarding you in on the low block because he knows how important he is to his team at this end. He's not going to pick up a 3rd foul.
Brooks off the up fake, picking his way right to the basket for 2.
Absolutely a slasher, not just a 3-point shooter, able to jump and slide right by the defender for the finish. He has been the guy that's picked up his offensive output here in the midst of this run.
Here we go again. Jenkins on Mendez, who flops and gets the travel call.
Well, he flopped right there, and by falling down, he actually ends up tripping Jenkins. If he's going to flop like that, you're not going to give him the call. You can't give him the basketball as well with the turnover. See right here, that's where they want to go. Good job executing, putting the basketball right there. Mendez flops and forces a turnover.
And so
Mihalik got a little nervous there with that contact, got him out on the bench, trying to protect him because now they've got the 5-point lead.
Again, Brooks into the paint. This time to Mathis for 2.
Well, somebody's got to guard Brooks off the dribble. Iona, who had done such a great job defensively in their first 2 wins, right now not doing a good job of keeping Brooks out of the lane.
And that right there is why I think Brooks is underrated, because you can't just guard him on the perimeter. He has the ability and the size to take it inside and make things happen.
Absolutely. As we said, scorer's mentality, a guy that's got a good body and strength to go finish once he gets by people in the lane.
Well, this Niagara team began its season way back in November against Providence College. And if you would watch that game and the 2 teams were wearing just blank uniforms, you wouldn't have been able to tell who the MAAC school was and who the Big East school was. This is a big MAAC school, the Niagara University Purple Eagles, and guys like Brooks and Mendez are a big part of that wide body team.
Absolutely. And after that game, Timmy Wells said, you know what? He not only, talking about Mendez, could play in our league, he said he'd be a terrific player in our league, scoring and rebounding inside.
Well, let's get back to our Broadway Marketing mind-bending trivia question. Which school won the first MAAC postseason tournament? Back in 1982, it's the team that has won the most MAAC tournaments. We're watching them right now, the Iona Gales. Beat St. Peter's in overtime. Broadway Marketing mind-bending branded solution.
Jenkins really fighting for position inside, this time against Mathis.
And that is a mismatch. Jenkins easily scores 2. He's got 8 off the bench.
And you can see the game plan. Get Jenkins touches in on the low post.
That pulls Iona back within 5.
They get high percentage shots inside. It also doesn't allow Niagara to get out and run. So you slow them down, score it in the paint, and then all of a sudden now it takes a while for them to get going in the half-court offensive set.
Brooks, he is feeling it.
Doesn't take him a while to get going, huh? Instant offense, getting by people off the dribble. Tough pull-up jumper with the defender in his face.
Brooks very quickly into double figures with 10. Mendez on the bench with 9. Here is Jenkins in the double team from Mathis. Jenkins has it knocked away by Brooks.
And that's where he's got to kick it out. You feel the double team, find the open man.
Cruz kicks. It was stolen away, and he's called for the offensive foul.
He gave up the basketball and then just came running through. Good defense by Burt to give up his body.
Well, after consecutive terrific ball games where Iona dictated the tempo, Jeff Ruland's Gales finding themselves on the short end right now. 31-24 Niagara on the MAAC Television Network.
What was most interesting about those papers?
The biggest thing I think is that NU is a lot more challenging.
The topic for today's class is going to be community policing.
They have high expectations, but I think it helps you, prep for the real world.
I've been teaching the DARE program.
They give you a chance to actually talk to professionals in that field. You know you're going to end up somewhere great because they've given you what you need to succeed. I would like to get my master's here at NU, and then I want to be an FBI. High hopes, huh? My name is Asha. My school is Niagara University.
3:23 left to go first half. Niagara with a 31-24 lead over Iona, and some of the fans enjoying watching Juan Mendez do his thing.
Absolutely getting after it on the offensive glass. He struggled on initial offensive possessions, but he's done a good job defensively, challenging, going up, and getting the big block against Henson. As you see, 9 points and 7 rebounds, but he still remains on the bench with his 2 fouls, and why not? You're Joe Mahalik, and you've got a 7-point lead. Protect your star.
So Mendez will likely sit and watch the final 3:23 of this first half. Jeff Ruland's ball club, meanwhile, trying to cut into this 7-point Niagara lead.
Niagara with the lead because they've done a good job on the defensive end. They've forced 9 turnovers from Iona. A lot of those points in the paint coming off offensive rebound opportunities from Mendez.
Jenkins has been the answer on the low post for Iona. That continues, and another foul against Duffy.
They put it inside. No double team comes, and without the double team, Jenkins very comfortable maneuvering inside. Mendez on the bench, so you don't have his big body to bang against him. No double team comes, and I'm not sure why not. Last time they ran the double team at him, he turned the basketball over, and that's been a problem all season long for Jenkins.
And now a calculated risk by Joe Mahalik to bring Juan Mendez back in and play with his 2 fouls. What do you think about that, Rob?
Well, playing with fire. You got the 5-point lead. Mendez, a guy that has consistently throughout the year been able to play and keep himself out of foul trouble, but certainly a calculated gamble.
Do you keep Mendez defensively on the hip of Greg Jenkins on this time?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Let him go guard Waxman.
Meanwhile, Waxman's been very active as well with 8 rebounds along with his 4 points, so he and Jenkins have been getting it done in the paint. Brooks. Wow. Still feeling it.
Right now, he's feeling it, and he's got the much smaller Marvin McCullough on him right now, and he's been able to shoot over top.
Niagara's lead is back up to 6. Brooks has a dozen.
And Mendez is inside on Jenkins. That's where they're going.
Waxman tips back out to McCullough, who fires it up.
And once again, it's McCullough with the defensive assignment on Brooks, and Brooks just using his size and strength to shoot over top of McCullough last couple possessions.
Meanwhile, Alvin Cruz on the bench for Niagara. This is Lorenzo Miles in the backcourt. DeRozier left open in the corner. Soliver playing with 2 fouls, gets it away from Mendez, and here comes Steve Burt and the Gales. Into a double team, and he's fortunate to get fouled on the shot. Miles picks it up.
Not many other Gales running with them, huh? 1-on-4, yet Burt is able to push the pace and get himself to the line. He's got the ability to get by people, and then once he does, he goes, finds contact. See right here, no numbers, but his quickness all of a sudden gets himself deep into the lane.
And so Steve Burt with a opportunity for 2 foul shots. Last year's MAAC tournament, he scored 24 points against these same Niagara Purple Eagles, which at the time was his career high, but he certainly topped that a number of times here this year. Alvin Cruz comes back in, and as we mentioned, Mendez still playing with those 2 fouls. Burt trying to match Jenkins for team high with 11. He does it. And Iona inches back closer to Niagara.
And here's where if you've got Mendez in the game, you got to use him. He's got to get touches.
Brooks has had the hot hand. And an offensive foul.
And they make the defensive switch. After being able to shoot over top of McCullough, they put the bigger, stronger Stevie Burt on Brooks. Burt doing a good job. The second charge that he's drawn here in this first half. Defensive switch, and here comes Burt. Good solid defense. He's got position. That helps the officials out there a little bit, but Brooks with the off arm out there, and as soon as you get that separation with the off arm, you're going to get the whistle.
McCullough, Waxman, Burt. This is Jenkins inside.
Great catch.
And a good finish as well. Jenkins has been a tremendous presence. He's got 13 points.
And they keep riding them, and why not? Keep putting the ball inside. It slows the pace down. You get high percentage shots.
And you might get the bonus of getting Mendez his 3rd foul.
And if you don't, you pound it inside, Mendez isn't going to guard you. So either way, it's a benefit to get touches every possession for Jenkins.
Mendez way short on the 3-point attempt. Soliver scrambles for it, has it. He's basically tackled by Duffy.
Yep, and they're going to have a foul call, I think, before the jump ball call. Bob Adams on top of it. Good call by you, Doug, as well with the tackle.
And Soliver, as we saw earlier in the tournament, comes up holding on to his right arm.
Niagara's done a great job all first half of getting after it on the offensive glass. Soliver trying to make like Marcus Haynes there, dribbling the basketball on the floor. Joe Mahalik can't believe it, but he couldn't see the tackle by Duffy.
3rd foul on Duffy, and it is the proper call. It's one thing to go for the ball, but you can't go through and around and over and onto somebody to get that ball. And so Ricky Soliver, the 6'3" junior out of All Hallows High School, who is scoreless so far here this afternoon, at the line to shoot 2. Iona jumped to an 11-2 lead to begin with. Niagara then answered back and took a 7-point lead, but the fouls are starting to mount for the Purple Eagles and their short bench.
Well, that's the key. They do not have a lot of depth on their bench. One of the reasons why they've picked up some of those fouls is Iona's pounded it inside to Jenkins. The other thing is Niagara's done a much better job of coming out and defending. When you're going to guard guys and give good effort, you're going to pick up some fouls now and again.
Freshman guard Taquan Evans has come into the game for Iona with just a touch under 1 minute remaining here in the first half. Now Ricky Soliver will be replaced by Marshall.
An opportunity to protect him with his 2 fouls.
Alvin Cruz with the basketball for Niagara. Out there with DeRozier, Brooks, Mendez, and Mathis. Mendez goes around Jenkins. He just kept fighting, got the ball to go through. He was fouled. I've yet to see a signal whether they're going to count the basket or not.
Tell you what, Mendez has had trouble scoring on first possessions, but he just stays with it long enough to go get his own miss and get up and get the finish.
And indeed, count the basket and one. We have a 35-33, now 36-33, Niagara lead.
And now you get Mendez back out of the game. So you put him in, you get some offensive production off the offensive glass for Mendez, and now you get to sit him the rest of the first half with his 2 fouls.
5 seconds or so between the shot clock and game clock.
You got to figure they're going to try and pound it into Jenkins again.
He's got Mathis trying to defend. Although now that Steve Burt has the basketball with the shot clock winding down, he may be option A. Indeed he is. And he hits.
Well, Stevie Burt's been very efficient here in the first half. He hasn't gotten a ton of field goal attempts, but when he's been able to find shots, he certainly has made the most of them.
And now Mendez will check back in for offense-defense with a timeout as we take another look at Steve Burt giving himself 14 points and retying the game at 36 apiece.
Well, tough shot. He's all fired up after hitting that. Timeout coming in. We've seen him do it at the defensive end, giving up his body and taking 2 charges. And then taking charge on the offensive end, shot clock winding down, able to find a 3 despite a good defensive rotation and closeout by Noel.
Well, Steve Burt last night had the 5th best single game scoring effort in MAAC tournament history. He scored 36, and he certainly picked up where he left off here this afternoon. 14 points so far.
And he was efficient last night as well, 11 of 19 from the floor. First game against Siena, he struggled from the floor. Even though he scored 19 points, it took him 22 shots to get those 19 points.
This is the first of our 2 MAAC semifinals, Ryder and Fairfield to follow. The top-seeded Niagara Purple Eagles trying to retake the lead before the intermission. Cruz being chased by Jenkins with 5 seconds to go. Mendez gets it off, and we will head to the locker room tied at 36 apiece.
A wild last possession. They got Mendez back into the game for the offense-defense substitution. 2 of the seniors, Brooks and Mendez, stepping it up. Once they got themselves down early, certainly the second part of that first half, it went Niagara's way because of those 2 guys.
Meanwhile, Greg Jenkins, the 13-point scorer for the Gales, has just walked into the locker room still holding his lower back. So we'll see in the second half, after he sits for 15 or 20 minutes, how he's able to come back and perform for the Gales. But in the first half, he performed very well. A half of streaks. It was Iona first, Niagara second, and right now at the intermission, we are all tied up at 36 apiece. The winner of this one will go on to tomorrow night's MAAC title game. Right now, Dave McGarity standing by with Joe Mahalik. Dave?
Thanks a lot, Doug. Joe, a little slow start offensively, but you really got it going now.
Well, the long week off, I think, showed earlier. I thought we were getting good shots. We just weren't knocking them down. I tell the team at the media timeout, hey, things are fine. We're getting the shots that we want. We're just not knocking them down. We will start to knock them down, and we did.
Yeah, well, you know, a kid like Burt can get going quickly, and obviously he got lost him at the end there. But, I mean, I think he did a good job defensively in terms of finding them in transition.
I thought we did, too. At one point, I mean, late in the half, they had 24 points. They scored a lot at the end there. A lot of whistles at the end there.
Oh, Coach.
Oh, you can't comment on the officials. No, they're doing a great job. Tough game to ref. They're doing a great job.
No, all right. Well, Joe, great. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you, Dave. And we will take a break. Our halftime show coming up from the HSBC Arena in Buffalo. A terrific first half. Iona 36, Niagara 36 on the MAAC Television Network. Back in Buffalo, we're ready for the start of the second half. Iona 36, Niagara 36. The winner of this ball game moves into tomorrow night's 9 o'clock MAAC title game on Championship Week. You can see that game on ESPN2. Steve Burt, Charles Henson, Kirill Waxman, Marvin McCullough, and Ricky Soliver, the starting 5 for Iona, just like in the first half, here in the second half. Burt draws the foul on Miles, who starts with Mendez, Duffy, Brooks, and Cruz.
Burt, who's usually much more comfortable on the perimeter, takes himself off the bounce and gets himself into the low post. He's got the strength to be able to finish and body up against people, and is able to take Miles deep into the lane for the post up.
Individually, Burt is the leading scorer for Iona with 14 points. Jenkins off the bench with 13 points.
Again, a very efficient first half for Burt. 4 of 5 from the floor. That's his first missed foul shot. Was 4 of 4 in the first half from the line.
The leading scorers for Niagara in that first half, Rob. Juan Mendez with 12. David Brooks with 12.
Mendez with 9 rebounds, 4 of those on the offensive side, which accounted for many of those 12 points and offensive putbacks, but certainly he did not shoot the ball well in the first half. 5 of 17 from the floor for Mendez. This from a career 54% shooter.
Duffy from 16. Miles with a rebound.
The 10th offensive rebound so far for the Purple Eagles.
Henson got his hand on the pass from Cruz, and the Gales take it back. Nice hesitation move. And we've got a foul on the drive by Burt. Mendez stepped in to take the charge. And that is the call. Number 1 on Steve Burt Jr.
Well, Burt left his feet with nowhere to go, out of control, picks up the charge.
Alvin Cruz with the dribble, 6'1" senior from Puerto Rico. Played his high school ball at Florida Air Academy in South Florida, where Juan Mendez was his teammate. They've now been teammates for 7 straight years. Henson with the block. Here come the Gales. Burt tries to outrace Cruz. He does and lays it in.
Talk about 2 guys with great speed going after it, but it was the upper body strength of Burt that bounced Cruz off him to come up with that basketball.
Mendez runs right into the double team, stays with it, and scores.
And the key is staying with it. He didn't panic and just throw the basketball up, regained his balance, and scored it.
That's 14 points for the 2005 MAAC Player of the Year.
Bloxman really trying to set up inside against Mendez.
McCullough. Miles allowed him to take that shot, almost wanting him to. And the Purple Eagles with possession, down 1. Joe Mihalik calls out the New York play. Brooks denied by Henson. How about David Brooks?
Just staying with it long enough. Great block by Henson. Doesn't deter Brooks. Most guys, you get it slapped away on the shot attempt. You get your head down and worrying about it. He's just tracking down the ball so he can go score it.
Very quietly, David Brooks is the 15th leading scorer in the history of Niagara University basketball. Mendez up for the rebound. Cruz is blocked by Soliver. And at midcourt, Ricky Soliver picks up his 3rd personal foul.
And that could be a key because certainly he has been playing great basketball in the tournament. Tries to step in and take it. Tell you what, if he did a better job of selling it right off the bat, he might have gotten himself a charge, but instead stood his body up and picked up the block.
And so Jeff Ruland decides to leave Ricky Soliver in there to play with 3 fouls.
Also deciding to keep Greg Jenkins on the bench to start things off here in the second half. And now Brooks, as he did in that run that got Niagara the lead in the first half, taking over on the offensive end.
That's 16 for Brooks. Niagara back on top by 3, and the Purple Eagles look to get the ball back, but Mike Kitts comes in and overrules the original call by Bob Adams.
Well, there was a ton of contact. Joe Mihalik didn't like it, nor did Jeff Ruland. He was looking for a foul against Mendez. Tell you what, I think that was a good piece of officiating. Keep the basketball down at this end.
And so the upshot is Iona gets the ball, and Steve Burt triggers in. McCullough lays it in
for his first field goal of the game. Doing a good job defending against the baseline out of bounds, and a burst of speed by McCullough. Got himself down into the lane.
And it gets the Gales back within a point. Burt giving Brooks the baseline. He takes it and kicks it back out to Duffy.
The one thing about Niagara, they'll stretch out. All 5 starters can knock it down from beyond the 3. Duffy at 35% on the season, hits another.
Burt spins to his strong hand, drops it off for Waxman. He's tied up for a moment by Brooks, but he muscles through and lays it in.
And going right at Mendez with those 2 fouls. Mendez is not going to be guarding people inside. Early in the game, he was challenging, going up and blocking shots, now protecting himself with those 2 fouls.
And now Mendez gets fouled and will shoot 2 free throws.
That's why he's not going to pick up fouls at the other end, because he knows how important he is to this team at the offensive end.
Foul number 3 on Charles Henson. Greg Jenkins will check back into the ball game at the next break.
David Brooks took over in that first half when Niagara was down and needed to get themselves on a run. Stepping up, knocking down threes consistently, beating the Gales off the bounce and getting himself into the lane. And once again doing the same thing here in the second half. Off to a terrific start in the second half once again for Brooks.
We've seen a couple of times here in the MAAC tournament this weekend, players have to leave games and change uniforms because of some blood, and I would imagine that's what's going on with Steve Burt right now, whether the cut is on him or if it's on somebody else, and the blood got onto Steve from one of his teammates or opponents, so now everybody checks their elbows. Check your elbows, Rob.
I'm clean.
Not me.
Up now, all of a sudden, Stevie looked at his and said, whoops, I do have some. He's trying to sneak back there. Look at him down in front of the bench, just kind of like, what's going on?
Meanwhile, David Brooks putting up the numbers, and there's the quick tape job on Steve Burt.
Well, sometimes he's very sneaky with the basketball. That time trying to be a little sneaky, making sure he didn't have to come out of the game. Now all of a sudden Joe DeMeo says, you know what, you're not going to get over on me. Substitution coming in. That was pretty good, though. Stevie gave it his best try.
And so Justin Marshall will have to check in and let the cut man do his job over on the Iona bench. So now after a long break between free throws, Mendez calmly knocks down the second. He's up to 16 points to match Brooks for team high. Burt has 17 to lead the Gales. As mentioned, Jenkins is checked back in. Here comes the double team with Brooks. Jenkins a little strong off the window, and here comes Brooks.
But certainly the double team, even though it doesn't force a turnover, definitely bothered him. Send the second player at Jenkins when he gets touches inside.
Make somebody else beat you and protect your big guy.
And again, he's not very comfortable of getting the basketball out of the post, out of those double teams.
Steve Burt at the scorer's table, directing traffic defensively, but still, David Brooks, regardless, knocking it down.
And again, it's over top of McCullough. When McCullough's had the defensive assignment on Brooks, he has looked to try and take advantage of his size and strength.
Well, McCullough's listed at 6 feet. I doubt he's that tall. And Brooks, as we said, is a big 6'3".
And strong, that upper body strength. When Burt's on him, Burt's got that upper body strength to match him.
Soliver uses the little bump from Jenkins, still with the dribble. Shot clock down to 10. First time we've said that here tonight. Waxman misses. Mendez, the outlet to Brooks. Taking it himself, strong to the basket. Duffy's going to be called for the foul on the rebound.
Well, Brooks just feeling it right now. Once again, he realizes he's got McCullough on him. He's going to step him up and knock down the deep three. He's one of the big reasons why Niagara holding on to this 7-point lead here on the MAAC Television Network.
It's been a terrific trip to Western New York so far. This weekend for Steve Burt Jr., 17 points so far in this afternoon's ball game for the Gales, who are now down 7.
You see, climbing up, he outdid his dad with a game-high 36 against St. Peter's. Trying to catch up to dad, move into the top 10 all-time with points throughout a MAAC tournament.
Burt, McCullough, Jenkins, Waxman, and Soliver out there for the Gales in their maroon and gold. The Purple Eagles in their home whites as the top seed in the tournament. Jenkins in the paint for 2 more. He's got 15.
Well, found himself wide open. Usually he's been spotting up on the low block. That time just diving and making himself available right in the middle of the lane.
In 13 minutes of play today, 15 points, 4 of 6 shooting, but no rebounds for Jenkins. Still, he's been a terrific presence. And an offensive foul against Brooks Walksman sold it.
Absolutely. They got him trapped along the sideline, and as Brooks tried to split the trap, Walksman gave up his body and then helped him along. A sarcastic smile from Joe Mihalik, but Walksman does a great job taking away the sideline. You see his foot on the sideline, and then right there as Brooks lowers his shoulder, Walksman went down.
Foul number 3 on Brooks. 6 minutes gone here in the second half. Niagara 50, Iona 45. Soliver trying to work the baseline, and a foul called against Alvin Cruz. And Alvin Cruz looks to Bob Adams and says, "You're right there. Why didn't you call it if I really, truly just picked up my 3rd foul?"
Cruz thought he did a good job of trying to take away the baseline and not hand check. Instead, trail official Joe DeMeo thought otherwise.
Let's send it back over to Dave McGarity. Some thoughts on the Gales' defense. Dave?
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, I talked to Jeff Woolen last night and just complimenting him on his defense. He gave me that big look, grin, and said, you know, defense, it's a beautiful thing. And one of the things he's going to have to be concerned about today is Niagara 5th in NCAA scoring offense, 86 points a game. And that's what's gotten the Gales this far, all the way into the semis. After an up-and-down year and certainly the inconsistency, they find themselves playing their best basketball. A lot of it is because of defense. Back to you, Doug.
Absolutely. It's been their defense that has keyed their quick starts in each of the 3 games, and they're going to have to continue to defend inside against Mendez. And they've got to rebound the basketball. That's part of defending, finishing possessions off on the defensive board.
And for Walksman, that was his 11th defensive rebound so far here this afternoon. Iona trying to retie the ball game. They can do it with a 3. Burt. Can't do it. Walksman with another rebound. That's his first offensive rebound to go along with all those defensive boards.
Well, he's been active. Double-double yesterday, and now getting it done on the backboards here this afternoon.
He's got 6 points so far, so certainly within range to get another double-double here in the semifinals. 12:35 to go second half. Shot clock at 17. Burt again for 3. He will go to the line to try and tie it.
Well, there was some contact last time he took a 3. This time, no doubt about it, as Miles comes out and tries to challenge, but gets a piece of him. You never want to foul a jump shooter, especially from beyond the 3-point line. Burt, one of the best foul shooters in the league, will step to the line for 3.
And Lorenzo Miles has picked up his 4th personal foul. You see the frustration on his face as he heads to the bench while Steve Burt looks to tie the ball game for Iona. Well, this season, Aeropostale will donate an article of clothing for every free throw made during conference play. Aeropostale and the MAAC will distribute these clothes to youth groups in our communities. Thank you very much, Aeropostale.
And with that foul shot, Steve Burt Jr. moves ahead of his dad up to 8th all-time with combined scoring totals throughout the MAAC tournament. He now has 76, and obviously, he's got plenty of time here this afternoon, and hoping he's got another chance again Monday night to add to that total.
And he's retied the ball game at 50 apiece. We were tied at the half at 36. 22 on the game now for Steve Burt Jr. to lead all scorers.
And McCullough trying to keep the basketball out of Cruz's hands. This offense runs with the ball in Cruz's hands.
Mendez double team. Back out Cruz. Instead of kicking it back out, he goes inside, away from the player of the year, and Mathis gets the easy 2.
And that's why Niagara wants the ball in Cruz's hands, because he's going to find people when they're open. So quick, gets himself into the lane, and finds other people once he gets there.
Well, the defense was thinking the kick was going to come. They saw Mendez all by himself on the wing, and instead he found the open man inside.
Now out of the zone defense, you got to make sure you shade to wherever Burt is. Well, man or zone doesn't matter. Jenkins is able to find open spots inside. With the bad back and all, he has put up a monster performance in the paint.
17 points for the first team all-league forward. Nice dump off for Mathis. Dumps it home again.
Another second chance opportunity for the Purple Eagles. Missed shot. Iona doesn't clean the defensive possession up off the glass.
Niagara back on top by a pair. 54-52, 11-11 to go.
And rebounding has always been a key stat all season long for Niagara. In their 18 wins, they out-rebound their opponent. In their losses, they get beat on the backboard.
Waxman misses the open jump shot. Mathis with the rebound. Mathis lobs into Mendez, and a foul is called. Jenkins and Mendez were banging bodies again, and the foul goes against Jenkins. We have a timeout on the floor, 10:50 to go. The folks here in Western New York rooting on their Purple Eagles with a spot in the MAAC Finals on the line here on the MAAC Television Network. Niagara 54, Iona 52, 10:50 left to go in the second half. And Fidelis Care is proud to sponsor the Fidelis Care family section. Fidelis Care, providing free or low-cost health insurance to all New Yorkers through the Child and Family Health Plus programs. Good crowd here on a Sunday afternoon for a doubleheader of basketball. It's the Final Four of the MAAC semifinals. Niagara and Iona fighting for a spot in tomorrow night's championship game. They will face the winner of our upcoming game between the co-regular season champs from Ryder and the surging Fairfield Stags. Cruz, Mendez, Brooks, the big three seniors, out there with DeRozier and Mathis. Mendez working on Jenkins. Mathis pulls up. Mendez, big on the glass, missed it. Tipped by Brooks, tipped again. Mathis again, he's blocked by Jenkins, and here comes Iona, 3-on-1. Burt keeps, puts it up, and in. We're tied at 54.
A couple offensive second chance opportunities for Niagara, but the big block by Jenkins to deny him inside.
That's 24 points for Burt after the 36 last night.
Tell you what, once again, Niagara getting after it on the offensive glass. Look at all those white jerseys, and if you're going to block a shot and kick it out, because all those guys are after it on the offensive glass, you're going to be able to leak out in transition. If they're going to crash the glass, as all of a sudden Jenkins comes out hobbling. First time we've seen him in that much pain here this afternoon. But if Niagara's going to send that many guys to the offensive glass, you've got to make them pay at the other end by getting out in transition.
Soliver got his hand on the inbounds pass, and up ahead again is Burt. Missed the layup. Mathis hustles back for the rebound. 54 apiece midway through the second half. Mendez. Soliver.
That's what Iona's got to do. They've got to get their guards in there to help them rebound the basketball.
Burt looking for a shot, feeling it.
And he's finding it right now, finding shots and delivering. Ball fake, one quick dribble to separate himself for the defense. A nice pull-up inside.
Watch Greg Jenkins right there, number 44 again, reaches for the small of his back. And it was that play that triggered him back to the sidelines. But still, considering the fact that he missed the first round game with the lower back injury and then played only 13 minutes last night, the fact that he's been as productive as he has for as long as he has here this afternoon, although you see him just in agony there, but 17 points in 17 minutes in spite of the condition of his lower back.
Absolutely, and he has certainly been a force inside at both ends. A couple big blocks, but his presence inside offensively to pound it in there, his 17 points have been key.
Yeah, have you ever had back trouble, Rob?
No, luckily no.
Knock on wood, neither have I, but you feel for these guys every time, and they try to play through it. It seems to be just the most debilitating thing.
And it's an injury that certainly takes time to heal, and Greg Jenkins doesn't have much more time. The fifth-year senior, as we see Sam DeRosa working on him on the sideline, stretching him out as a fifth-year senior. There's not much more time left, so he's going to have to try and see whether or not he's going to be able to play through that pain.
Fans, the New York Lottery MAAC Scholar Athlete of the Year is Corey Hinnant, the fourth-year guard for the St. Peter's Peacocks. He's from Bayshore, New York. Winners are selected based on GPA, community participation, and good sportsmanship. The New York Lottery, supporting education since 1967, salutes Corey Hinnant for his achievements. I say he's a fourth-year player, fifth-year student. He's already working on his graduate degree. Also, this copyrighted telecast of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the MAAC and MAAC Properties, a division of Host Communications. Steve Burt has been the story with 26 points. He's gotten terrific help from Greg Jenkins, who continues to gut it out here in Buffalo.
One of the hard things with that back is trying to keep yourself loose when you're out of the game. So I'm standing up, trying to stretch it. Now he sits back down.
DeRozier, lob inside Mendez. Blocked by Henson, who saves to Burt, but he was out of bounds.
Henson's been active on the defensive end. Every time they pound it in, Henson quick off his feet to go challenge. Nice post-feed entry here on the ball reversal. Puts it high. Mendez with those great hands gets it. But the timing of Henson to block it away.
That's the third block shot this afternoon by Charles Henson, the senior out of St. Raymond's High School in New York City. Shot clock at 5. Cruz doesn't seem to realize. Purple Eagles don't. Mathis doesn't get it off. So the Iona defense and the fact that Niagara lost track of the clock turns them back over.
Jeff Rulin, as he said, defense a beautiful thing. It's also lack of recognition on the offense. Mathis, by the time he figures out that the shot clock's winding down, you saw the double zeros right above the rim.
Well, there are at least a couple of thousand people in the stands rooting for him to realize that the shot clock was down to 2, and it registered just a little too late. Brooks rebounds the Henson miss. Under 9 minutes left in regulation. Iona with a 2-point lead, 56-54. Cruz with the floater. Tied again, 56 apiece.
You've got to keep him out of the lane. So quick off the bounce. Once he gets into the lane, he puts too much pressure on your defense. You step up, he drops it off and finds people. Nobody rotates up. He gets an easy hoop.
Greg Jenkins is back at the scores table to check back in, and Dave McGarrity's got an update on that lower back. Dave?
Doug, thanks a lot. I just talked to Iona's trainer, Sammy DeRosa, and he thinks it's just the back's been re-aggravated. He's been stretching him out, and nothing serious, so obviously he's getting back in the game. I'm sure they'd love to see him out there. Back to you, Doug and Rob.
Thank you, Dave. And the Purple Eagles running back the other way. Mathis with his third dunk here in the second half.
And the points in the paint starting to pile up for Niagara, especially when they've been able to get into the lane with the ball in Cruz's hands.
And Niagara back on top, 58-56. Pass intended for Springer, knocked away by Brooks. And we've got a held ball. The possession arrow points the other way.
You can see, though, Iona, much different team in the half-court offense without the inside scoring presence of Jenkins on the floor.
We'll take a break. A timeout here in Buffalo. Niagara with a 2-point lead on the MAAC Television Network. Welcome back to Buffalo, and Greg Jenkins, the fifth-year senior for the Iona Gales, just trying to gut it out and play through that lower back injury.
Well, we saw in the first half, he did a great job running the floor here, gets hit and then bangs his back into the lower stanchion. First time tonight that we saw him grab the back, and then on this play in the second half, he re-aggravated it off to the bench, trying to stretch him out, and he's back on the floor, and they need his presence. He has been monster inside. Doing a good job establishing that inside presence. His 17 points have been key for Iona.
And it's been 8 days since Jenkins suffered the back injury in a nasty fall in the regular season finale. He had to be hospitalized. He went up for a slam dunk and came down and landed awkwardly. And he has been in more pain than not in the last week or so. Brooks with the runner off the glass.
Well, he's been the guy every time they've needed a big bucket. He's been there to deliver.
21 points now for Brooks, and the Niagara lead is back up to 4. Here is Jenkins posting Mathis. Mathis playing big here in the second half with another rebound. McCullough came from behind and nearly mugged Cruz, and Alvin Cruz able to keep the dribble and pull it back out.
Well, the crowd looking for the foul, but they still have the basketball. Cruz settles him down to get into a half-court set.
Cruz guarded by Burt. Shot clock under 20. tough pass. Henson tries to save but can't do it. The Purple Eagles keep possession.
Cruz saying put it up high, or Mendez saying put it up high. Cruz once again, though, beating his man off the dribble, getting around people and putting pressure on the defense.
Those two old teammates, Mendez and Cruz, have been together 7 years, 4 at Niagara, 3 in high school. They do a lot of bickering at each other that from the outside may look like trouble. But for those in the Niagara University basketball program, they know they're the two best friends and catalysts of this team. The #1 seed now up by 7.
And credit the presence, the offensive presence of Mendez. He comes diving into the low block, sucks the defense in to take him away. And all of a sudden, Miles is standing wide open in the left corner, buries another 3.
This equals the largest lead thanks to a 7-0 run. The game was tied at 56 a minute and a half ago, and now it's 63-56 Niagara. Let's take a look at our Pepsi slams of the game. All by the same guy. 1, 2, and then 3. James Mathis, the 6'6" junior from Newark, New Jersey, now has 12 points, and he has our Pepsi slams of the game. Pepsi hits the cola.
So give him a couple cans of cola right there. And his offensive presence here in the second half has been a huge lift, especially in transition and in traffic. 12 points and 6 rebounds for the MAAC 6th man of the year.
And it was his dunk that snapped the 56-all tie and gave Niagara this lead.
And now you can hear the crowds trying to get back in.
Jenkins. Brooks the rebound.
And since Jenkins came back in after sitting with that back injury, he's missed each of the last 2 shots in the lanes.
We are just 25 miles south from the campus of Niagara University. They're in Lewiston, New York, just outside of Niagara Falls, and the fans have come out here in Buffalo. Mendez fighting to get the pass. It's taken away by Waxman.
Put it a little too high there.
Burt runs in. No call. Hard to believe that we didn't get either a block or a charge. That's a lot of contact as Mathis stood his ground.
Tough no call there because Burt was out of control. Looked like Mathis had good position here in transition. He comes over, gives up his body, send it the other way.
If there's ever a clear or definitive charge, that seemed to be one of them. Jenkins blocked by Mendez, and here comes David Brooks. The senior's on the fly. Mendez throws it down.
Well, first time we've seen Mendez challenged defensively in a while, going up and denying Jenkins at that end, and the quick run, Jenkins with the bad back, not able to keep up with Mendez. He simply outran him up the floor.
The run is now 9 straight points for the Purple Eagles.
Now out of this zone, you got to make sure you find Burt from 3. He forced it.
And there is Mendez with another big rebound.
And this run has certainly gotten this pro-Niagara crowd back into it.
There's the foul call against Steve Burt. Jeff Rulin's Gales watching it slip away after being tied at 56. 9 straight points for Niagara, and a chance to build on that after the foul against Steve Burt. We take another look at Mendez finishing with a big dunk.
And their run has been on the run. They've been able to rebound and get out in transition where they're at their best.
That foul number 2 against Steve Burt. Trying to find Mendez, and the foul on the entry pass against Jenkins.
Well, those guys were fighting for position inside. Niagara goes 4 out and 1 in. But Juan Mendez, the player of the year, try to get good spacing so you can isolate him one-on-one. You see no weak side help coming on the entry pass. Here comes Waxman. But by then, contact and a foul. Mendez, a terrific foul shooter at 81%, steps to the line.
That was the 3rd foul on Jenkins, and Mendez, a native of Montreal, misfires. We're near the Canadian border here. A lot of Canadian fans have been keeping track of Mendez the last couple of years as he has put up some huge numbers at Niagara University.
Well, last year in the tournament was Niagara that came back from an 11-point second-half deficit to force overtime and get the win. Iona's going to need some late-game heroics to get themselves back into it as Soliver goes down hard after the goal.
Well, Ricky Soliver is not the biggest guy in college basketball. He's 6'3" and only 170 pounds, and we do see him give up his body and get up slowly like he just did.
Quick first step to get by, and then jumps around, avoids the contact, gets off balance, and goes down hard on his hip or back. You see him grab it right there. He doesn't have a whole lot of padding to soften that fall.
That's his first field goal, as you see, for Ricky Soliver, who last night against St. Peter's was just spectacular. 20 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. It's been a quieter afternoon here in the MAAC semifinals.
And because of the stoppage in play, he needs to come out. See, standing over at the scorer's table, and will come in at the next dead ball.
Marshall replaces him in the Iona lineup.
Jeff Ruling not wanting to take a timeout to keep him on the floor. He's going to need those timeouts later in the game if they're going to mount a comeback.
Niagara has its big 3 seniors out there with Lorenzo Miles and James Mathis. It's Mathis working the post. Niagara saves. Waxman up for the rebound. Mendez came crashing in. And it's Iona basketball.
Once again, bodies flying all over the place inside. Niagara's just dominated the offensive glass. Their 17 offensive rebounds here so far in the game have been a huge factor. Solid defense. The triple team inside. No contact. Here comes Mendez, knocks down Waxman. But instead, Iona will take the basketball.
And if you're Joe Mihalik, you'll take that. Looked like Mendez could have picked up another foul.
Absolutely.
65-58 Niagara. Under 4 minutes to go. The give and go didn't work. It went to Niagara. 3-on-1. Cruz the look away. Miles the finish.
And a great look away. He's got Brooks running on the left. Baits the defender into thinking that that's where he's going, and then drops it off to the right.
Miles with 7. It's a 9-point Niagara lead. Jenkins with the jump hook. He's been off lately. Waxman with another offensive rebound. Back into Jenkins. Loses the handle. And it's a foul call on the floor.
And he certainly has not been as effective as he was early on since coming back in off that back injury.
4th foul on Juan Mendez as we head to break. 67-58. The Purple Eagles trying to run to the MAAC finals. In Juan we trust. Juan Mendez and the Niagara Purple Eagles with a 9-point lead. 67-58 late in the second half. Get the latest MAAC news and scores sent right to your wireless phone by signing up for the MAAC Verizon Wireless Coaches Corner at MAACsports.com. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you. And in Juan we trust, but he picked up his 4th foul before that last time out. And so now he will have to play even more carefully with 3:18 to go. Soliver the offensive rebound off the Jenkins miss. I would think they might try to find Steve Bird on this. Jenkins has come up empty the last 3 or 4 times down.
Exactly. Play to your perimeter. Little 2-man game between Jenkins and Bird.
No double team this time. Jenkins still off the mark. Mathis, who has played huge for Niagara, mixing it up again. But
going to be a foul on him as Soliver was able to sneak inside. He was able to come up with an offensive rebound on a missed foul shot. He keeps it alive. Niagara's gotten so much done on the offensive boards with their 17 offensive rebounds. 2 offensive rebounds from Soliver trying to bail Iona out on this possession.
Foul number 3 on Mathis, the 8th team foul against Niagara here in the second half. Soliver just did a move at the free throw line that reminds me of Dyree Wilson, the former Iona star. At the foul line, he goes behind his back before he shoots it up.
And here on a made foul shot, expect Iona to get up into full court pressure. Trailing by 8, they've got to try and turn over the Purple Eagles, get a couple more offensive opportunities and a couple extra possessions.
last time the MAAC tournament was held in Buffalo, it was Iona that won its 6th all-time MAAC championship. They'll have to come from behind if they're going to make it 7, and Steve Burt trying to get that started.
And again, off the made foul shot, it's a lot easier to get up in that full court pressure. Find your man. They find a turnover for the quick 2. Ball coming in to Mendez. He's looking for others, not looking to find Burt. He's able to sneak around and take it for the quick 2.
And Steve Burt now with 28 points to pull the Gales back within 5.
And there was the Iona backcourt. Soliver keeping it alive with the offensive rebounds. Knocks down the 2 foul shots, and then Burt with the defense. Hustle plays by the backcourt on the offensive boards, and then the steal and finish to get it down to a 5-point game.
As you see, Iona has just 1 timeout remaining with 2:47 left on the clock. Jenkins, Waxman, and then the trio of guards back out on the floor. Steve Burt Jr. is going to go down in history for his 2005 MAAC tournament. The numbers just keep climbing.
Up to 6 now all time with his scoring performance so far here this weekend.
67-62, Niagara with the lead and the basketball. Coming up after this one, Ryder against Fairfield in the 2nd men's semifinal.
And here's where Niagara's been so good all season long, executing on the offensive end. Taking some time off the clock. Now ball in Cruz's hands. Here they go.
10 seconds on the shot clock. The 3 seniors keep possession. Brooks spins, tries to force, instead kicks it back out. Big rebound by Mathis.
Huge 18th offensive rebound. That's been the story of the game.
And wisely, Mathis pulls it back out as timeout is called from the sideline. Brooks is the one who forgot about the plan. Eat some time off the clock, and he's having it reinforced right now.
Mathis coming out of nowhere for that offensive rebound. Talked about his presence with those dunks in the second half. Look at that monster rebound, and Greg Jenkins doesn't have the lift there with the bad back. You saw his feet planted on the ground. 18 offensive rebounds have led to 17 important points for Niagara.
And I'll tell you what, while Jenkins has been able to be productive with that bad back, 17 points in 23 minutes, still 0 rebounds, and we saw right there where his problem lies.
Absolutely. Can't get off the floor, flat-footed, and here came Mathis out of nowhere.
And so the timeout used by the Purple Eagles to reinforce. We're looking to work some time off the clock. 30 seconds on the shot clock right now. And there is where Jenkins is gutting it out. But you're having to give up something where he is typically going to get you 6 or 7 rebounds a game. He's not been able to do that here this afternoon.
Niagara has shown you why they're one of the top 10 rebounding teams in the country. Out-rebound their opponents by over 7 a game. They've got a double-digit advantage so far against the Gales on the board.
Along with Rob Kennedy and Dave McGarity, this is Doug Sherman in Buffalo. Game 2 of our MAAC semifinals will come up following the conclusion of this one.
Here comes Brooks off the screen on the baseline.
16-footer off the mark. Soliver up ahead to Burt with Jenkins trailing. Burt gives it to Jenkins, and he got up that time. Back to a 3-point ball game.
Get Niagara crashing the offensive board so nobody gets back. That allows Iona the leak out.
Do you think Niagara should just go into its offense now? Forget trying to kill some time.
Well, certainly Iona's defended. They've only had to defend 10 seconds of the possession because they've taken time off. This time they don't go with the delay game, but again, shot clock down to 10.
In the last couple of possessions, Niagara has not gotten good shots. Here goes Cruz trying to create a 4th shot in the paint, no good. And because of that, Iona with a chance to tie, 1 minute to go.
And no transition defense for Niagara, slow getting back. Tell you what, could it be deja vu all over again, just the other way? Last year they had that great battle where Niagara came back late. Iona's been able to come back late here because they've gotten out and run in transition. Nice feed ahead as Soliver attacks the rim. Miles late getting there. Transition defense has been a problem as of late as Miles fouls out with his 5th.
Well, it's been about 3 minutes since Niagara last scored, and the Gales have used that drought to get back into the ball game. Well, to find out more about the MAAC basketball tournament, you can go online to MAACsports.com. The redesigned site offers the most current and up-to-date information about your favorite MAAC teams and players. It's being updated daily and hourly here from Buffalo at the MAAC basketball tournament. 58.6 seconds to go. Greg Jenkins with 19 points off the bench has helped Iona hang around.
And Soliver will go to the line. A solid foul shooter at 73%. We saw Iona a couple times off the made foul shot. Last few possessions up into full court pressure, and they've been able to force turnovers. Soliver a perfect 4 for 4 from the line here this afternoon.
Soliver with 6 points, the 1 field goal to go along with those 4 foul shots. Ricky Soliver's career high came a year ago in the MAAC tournament against these same Purple Eagles when he scored 31.
Iona in the midst of a 7-0 run, trying to make it 8-0. Now Niagara's got to forget about trying to take time off the clock and just get into their rhythm at the offensive end. Gales back up and at full court pressure. Remember, Niagara, one of the best foul shooting teams in the country. If you're Iona, you do not want to give up fouls. Just play a good, solid defensive possession. And Niagara taking time, content to take some time off the clock.
Burt tries to draw the call on Brooks. Brooks killed his dribble. Here's Mendez. Block. Jenkins and Waxman. Mendez again had it taken away. 67-66. Iona down a point with possession. Shot clock turned off. Jeff Rulin says, let's set it up and get a good shot and try and win this and go on to the MAAC Finals.
And he's got the ball in Burt's hands. He's going to allow Burt to make a play.
Here goes Burt, already with 28 points. No call. Loose ball. Brooks. David Brooks goes in.
No basket. They've got an intentional foul from behind before the basket. Niagara, a team that has relied on offense all season long, comes up with a huge defensive stop at the other end.
David Brooks has been the offensive catalyst for Niagara with 21 points this afternoon. But as you say, Rob, he comes up with the biggest loose ball of the day.
And great defensive possession to take away the sideline from Burt. Burt was looking to turn the corner, but Niagara's defense up to it. Here's this great defense. The switch off the screen takes it away on the sideline. The official's going to try and see how much time should be on the clock. Here was that great defense at the one end. A team block as Soliver is able to come away with it. The defense by Iona. Here's that great switch. Defense by Mendez to give up his body, and then Brooks runs it down. There's the grab from behind by Waxman. That was the call of the intentional foul.
Answer now, Joe Mihalik. Talking to his troops, hoping that they can extend to tomorrow night's title game. The Purple Eagles have won 9 of their last 12. They're looking for their 19th win of the season. And again, this is a program that has come very, very close. This group of seniors has been in the MAAC Finals twice before and lost. Trying to get there as the #1 seed this year in their home region on Western New York, or in Western New York, with their 3 seniors. This seems to be the team of destiny, and maybe they came up with a big play. We'll see if they can hang on.
How ironic, though, it's the big defensive stop for Niagara, who's done a good job defensively all game long. If you were going to say, hey, this game was in the 60s, it clearly was going to favor Iona. Iona had the basketball last possession with a chance to try to make something happen, but the switch off the screen by Juan Mendez to take away the sideline and force the turnover. The officials put a 1/10 of a second back up on the clock.
Niagara has not scored in nearly 4 minutes, but they'll get a chance here at the free throw line after the intentional foul.
Then after the foul shots, Niagara will have possession of the basketball. Iona's going to hope for a miracle. They're going to have to come up with a steal off the inbound.
Steve Burt tried to make something happen. He has been the man making things happen this weekend for Iona.
Mendez made things happen, though, jumping out, coming off of that screen, hedging it, giving up his body, and forcing the turnover.
And so Brooks, a 75% foul shooter at the line. Partisan crowd gets quiet on cue.
This loud building quieted down as Brooks knocks that one down. This stretches it out to a 3-point lead. Remember, after the foul shot, they retain possession.
23 for the senior from Philadelphia, and the head coach from Philadelphia, Joe MAAC, licking his chops.
And remember, they've got timeouts. If you can't get the basketball inbounds, don't just throw it away. Take the timeout to save possession.
Brooks gets it into Mathis. And another hard foul given by Ricky Soliver with 3/10 of a second on the clock.
Got no choice but to give up the foul there. And Miles, who had fouled out, can only stand on the sideline and cheer. But they've got a lot to cheer about, as it looks like Niagara will advance on into the championship game. And Doug, that's where the effects of the double bye and the benefit of the double bye can really show themselves. Not necessarily here in today's game, but tomorrow, when you get a chance to march into the finals a little fresher, as you look at Ryder, Jerry Johnson, and the rest of the Ryder Bronx looking on, anxious to get out on the floor to see if they've got an opportunity to march into the final on Monday as well.
And off of this, if Niagara indeed does hold on, they will have, what, 29 hours almost until the MAAC finals, so they should be in terrific shape. The heave.
If it goes.
It doesn't, and the #1 seed survives our first MAAC semifinal. Niagara wins it 69-66.
And again, the defense of Joe MAAC late in the game making a big stop. Iona made a valiant effort to get back into it, just as Greg Jenkins with the back injury showed you how tough he was gutting it out. Jeff Rulin's team had a fine tournament, but it'll be the Purple Eagles as the #1 seed marching into the final on Monday night.
And so Iona's season comes to an end with a record of 15-16, and the career of Greg Jenkins ends in valiant fashion. He scored 19 points in a losing effort. Fellow senior Charles Henson also sees his college career come to an end at Iona. Steve Burt, the junior guard, goes for 28 in a losing effort as the Gales fall in the semis. We'll take a break and come back. We'll talk to the winning coach and the star players for the Niagara Purple Eagles, who win it 69-66.